I've been watching the Savannah Guthrie mother's kidnapping story from day one. I've been reluctant to express any skepticism because when you have skepticism that you can't even rationalize to yourself, it's not fun and games just to go out and say, oh yeah, the brother's in on it, whatever. Or
Right.
they're not sad enough, they're in on it. It's an inside job. A number of things are going on here. You've actually, as we were talking before going live, have dealt with 3 hostage situations or kidnapping situations.
Yeah, exactly 3. And mostly what the FBI deals with are what are called parental kidnappings, where we're assisting local law enforcement and the FBI doesn't have jurisdiction. That's the most common. Interstate kidnapping is not that common. It's not a common case.
Parental kidnapping doesn't mean the kidnapping of parents. It means you're sort of acting as a parental role in the kidnapping.
No, a parent. A parent comes in and kidnaps their child. So like a non-custodial parent will take the child, right? So there's a bad divorce or something. This is the most common form of kidnapping in America.
Yeah, that's like 90-some-odd% of the Amber Alerts that we get.
It's a huge number of them. The FBI actually has a policy that we do not investigate those, so that if you're a parent, you actually, under federal law, as far as I can understand it, or the way they've sussed it out, you cannot kidnap your own child. Even if you're the non-custodial parent, that's a state issue only. So at the federal level, we would provide location. So we would do cell phone pings, we would do tracking, we would do surveillance, we would do field interviews as necessary, we would hold containment and stuff like that. And I've done that exactly 3 times. I had one virtual kidnapping on the Indian reservation. That was kind of interesting. Virtual kidnapping is someone goes out of range, and that may be what this is for all we know. So just so people understand what a virtual is. Virtual is when somebody disappears from the grid. They're no longer in cell phone coverage, maybe because of something they did, maybe because they got lured somewhere. And then a ransom demand comes in from a third party that is scamming you. And they know that you can't access your loved one. And so they say, we have your loved one. And when you hammer call it, your wife is out at a national park and she's in a no cell phones area. So you think, well, that's plausible. And they try to get you to send over some money. And sometimes the cartels do this kind of stuff. And sometimes it's people pretending to be cartels. And so virtual kidnappings are a thing that is an ongoing threat for people sort of in the identity theft area.
That's very interesting. I mean, that's something like along the lines of hypothetically someone dies of natural causes, a criminal discovers and says, oh, and now I have the ability to extort the family pretending that I've kidnapped this person.
Correct. That's a virtual.
That's fascinating. Actually, I'd never even thought of that. Although the fake ransom note in this case sort of implied that. I guess the one question is, what do you make of it as of now with Savannah Guthrie reading that note? I don't know who drafted it. And people are making a big deal over the fact that one of the lines from the note that she was reading is straight out of Silence of the Lambs.
It's really weird.
People are saying that that intelligence or authorities were involved in the making of Silence of the Lambs, and maybe it's a catch-all or a phrase that they use typically to try to touch the emotional bones of the hostages. For lack of a better way of describing it, that sounded really gross.
Yeah.
But it is, you do find that weird.
It's super weird. I watched it a couple times and I just went there and it's like, you don't need to fake emotion. You don't need to either hold it together or not hold it together. None of that stuff is necessary. And we're also talking about somebody who's on camera for a living. So the odds of them being able to put something together and get their face right to be able to say something, or even if you're sad, like you can have a tearful moment. This is America in 2026. We don't need the Silence of the Lambs, delivery of the woman in that case. I think she was a senator in that movie that was talking about her daughter being missing or whatever. It's all super strange. I've basically tried to not tune into it because all the people that I see that are commenting on it have almost no experience with kidnapping, and my experience is so little. What I know is that it's really uncommon for this to be the case. This is the equivalent of, for whatever it's worth, there are basically no snipers who decide that they are going to kill a public figure with a long rifle from a long distance. That doesn't happen statistically ever. It's not a threat that people deal with. It's like a hypothetical thing that the Secret Service may consider for the president. But like, imagine the movie like Shooter with Mark Wahlberg, right? That's fantasy.
I've never seen it, but
it's actually a pretty good movie. And so and I think it's based on a book. So imagine what people think an assassination plot looks like. It's a long, Charlie Kirk's shooting is a complete anomaly. Whatever you guys want to say happened there, people with a rifle taking a shot from any distance, all of that is super weird. People get poisoned, that's how they die. Brake lines get cut, that's how they die. People have a close range and some throwaway patsy with a low caliber gun, that's how they die. Ronald Reagan having some guy jumping out, whatever name was, Hinckley, whatever, popping out and dropping a revolver because he's mentally ill. That's how assassinations happen. Professionals don't do it that way. They'll crash a plane, they'll do something so it covers up. So the kidnap on a big major stage and then a hostage video read, that doesn't happen. Like there's no cases of that. Go back and scan. When was the last time this happened? And they're acting like this is the Lindbergh baby that got kidnapped. That's the weirdest part of it.
Well,
So
that was exactly the one I was going to say. That's the last, from what I understood, is the last major.
The FBI doesn't do other than in movies. So almost always it's parental kidnapping. Sometimes it's a virtual kidnapping situation. Sometimes somebody maybe was actually kidnapped, but you find out that it was because of drug money or something else that happened. So we would find out like, oh, this person got captured and like maybe now they're south of the border in Ciudad Juarez or whatever. And you're like, oh, okay, why is that? And they're like, oh, because he owed like the drug cartels a bunch of money and did some dirtbag stuff. And so you're like, everyone's a bad guy in this thing. You're still going to try to find the person. You're going to locate them. But the hostage kidnap recovery mission in the United States is basically nil. There are places where kidnapping happens 100%. Latin America, there's kidnappings fairly frequently, as far as I understand it. There's an entire K&R business, kidnap and ransom recovery. That happens in certain places. There's some in the Middle East as well. That is not a thing that happens in America. And the videos that we've seen of the front door of that guy, like wearing the mask and the thing, all that shit looks like cartoon, movie, theater. The gun placement is the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well,
I've never seen someone carry a gun.
I've got to. I need to pick your brain on this because I don't know. This is the original, Ring Nest footage, which I don't know. It's come out 9 days later, and we don't know what time of day it was. It wasn't specified, and it seems
clearly at night.
This is it's clear at night that you got the street lights on, but it was also something Cash said here. Over the last 8 days, the FBI and Pima County Department, yada, yada, working closely with our private sector partners to continue to recover any images or video footage from Nancy Guthrie's home that may have been lost, corrupted, or inaccessible due to a variety of factors, including the removal of the recording devices. And I don't know if he's suggesting that
these
criminals
are all cloud-based. There's no reason why you wouldn't be able to get that. So, but that's what they claim. They claim that the cameras were cut off at something like 1:45 a.m., that her pacemaker was disconnected from the phone, which had some kind of an app that was monitoring it maybe an hour and a half later or hour and 20 minutes later. A professional doesn't do this for whatever it's worth.
This looks like a flashlight in the mouth, and he's putting flowers over the ring cam. This is him trying to cover it with his hand while he does it, or her. Some people are hypothesizing this looks like a woman's eye and not a man's eye with a fake mustache. But
this is a person that's never carried a gun before. That is a complete buffoon and a goober.
This right here, like so
that backpack, that's on a man. I mean, that's obvious. Like those shoulders are men.
I think that's a man as well. I'm going to get to the backpack.
Chest is man. That's a man. That's how a man wears a backpack.
Nobody carries a gun.
Not a single person has ever carried a gun like that in my life. I actually have a post. What do we call that? I don't even know what you call that. Somebody called it appendix, which is really funny.
Well, a dick slinger. I mean, you could go with a gun slinger.
Yeah, codpiece style, a codpiece carry, something like that.
I'm glad that I'm not the only one who thinks
nobody carries. Look, I carry a gun every day. I carried it for years on duty. I carried it years after. I carried it years before. I've carried a gun for quite a while, and nobody carries a gun like that. Not a single person carries. And that holster is dog shit. And just excuse my, like, that's a $20 holster worn outside the waist where it doesn't belong. Everything about that is bizarre.
We don't know what time that video was shot at or recorded at. I mean,
no, but if the ring camera was taken down or the device was destroyed at 1:45 and went offline, then you can imagine that it had to be slightly before that. So it had to happen sometime between the hours of darkness and 1:45 when the camera was taken down.
Let me ask you this. I want to bring this one up. This was the reverse. Someone did a reverse infrared, which seems to, give a clear look of the individual. My question was, like, that's, and I'm not trying to play sleuth. I just, you have eyes. That's a brand new backpack in my mind. Like, it's not wrinkled at all. It seems pretty distinctive that you'd be able to
it might be made for a toddler because that's a really small backpack, for the actual
or a Camelback, but it seemed like a pretty big leader bag for the size. But the question is this, and I don't know what tools the FBI or the partners at the state have. You can run this and pretty much quickly find out exactly the type of model, brand, where it, roughly where it would have been purchased. If it was
purchased locally, yes. If it otherwise, I mean, we're talking about something that was probably made in Chinese because that's where things are made. And so if it's not a high-end backpack, that's some sort of a name brand where you had to go into an REI or an outdoor store, then the odds are that's the slowest thing that I would be like the backpack, unless somebody saw somebody walking with that backpack getting into a vehicle and some other camera picked it up. I mean, that's what you'd want to look at. Somebody said it was a gold tooth. I also thought that too. I was like, oh, the subject is black with a super shiny, gold sort of bling in the teeth.
or who are out with a
Yeah, yeah.
flashlight.
Listen, a
Not
professional's
worried
not
about
going to do
germs.
that. First of all, a professional doesn't do any of those things. You grab somebody in the open when they're not going to be in a place. You grab them while they're filling up with gas. You're going to do this. There are ways to make this thing happen where it's non-alerting and it's not going to be this, where you're not going to get caught in the ring cam. If you are going to go and do the ring cam, either you're cutting the power before you get there. If you're really gung-ho, you're coming in with either a fogger or you're coming in with a spray can, which costs almost nothing, and you're spraying over the lens and you're moving on. You're not hanging out there trying to get them pictures. You're going to approach from the angle. You might have some kind of like a box over you, and then you just do it. There's a million ways that you could obscure this thing, and you're not carrying a gun over your freaking crotch in a holster that has no business being on anybody's belt in America in 2026. Nobody should be buying that holster. If you're buying that holster, there's something wrong with you. As a guy who has literally thousands of dollars worth of holsters alone, that's the saddest holster I've ever seen carrying an actual firearm. It's bizarre.
Now, at the risk of either looking foolish or looking like Nostradamus, how do you see this ending, and what do you think the ultimate outcome is?
I have no idea, but we're 9 days into this thing, and the woman hasn't turned up. Like, the odds are not good in her favor. That's not, unless it's somebody that has a vested interest in her well-being, then the odds are that you're probably in a bad spot for that person. But also, it's hard for me to get really amped up. Again, Lindbergh, baby, why did everyone care? Because it was a child. If somebody's 84 years old, and I don't mean to be callous, but like if you're 84 years old, like, one, who are your enemies? Who's kidnapping an 84-year-old lady? Who's putting up with an 84-year-old lady that they kidnapped?
That's
with a
why
heart condition.
That's why I think it's a bigger issue than what you are, writing it off as, because if this is political, if it turns out to be some form of, weather underground,
it can be a million things. That's the problem. And we don't have all the information because we don't know the story of this lady. We don't know, other than what's presented publicly and what her public face is. We don't know what the money situation looks like. We don't know, what the mom does in her free time. Everyone says she's a lovely person. Maybe she's great. I'm sure she is. But her pacemaker getting disconnected from the app is probably not a good sign. I don't know how much autonomy it uses or how much normal feedback mechanism is required by that app, but that's not a good sign if you have some sort of an intervention device on the medical end. And she's obviously got some sort of cardiac issues at 84. She's not young and she's got cardiac issues. That's not going to be a great place to be putting somebody in containment, giving them, low nutrition, high stress, and all of that stuff doesn't bear well for the outcome. But again, who knows what the outcome is, because we don't even understand the circumstances under why they were taken. And the hostage video and the weird reading of the note and all that stuff. I watched the brother. Everyone's reading off camera these scripts, and I don't know why you would do that. And they're saying that we'll pay your demands, and all that's weird too. So
I just, you go statistically, and more often than not, by a long shot, it's family related, and then
almost always.
And so, and money related, and then
almost always,
as you speaking out loud, cynically, people say, well, 84-year-old person, we have insurance proceeds that happen if this person dies, and then this is where my thoughts go. But again, waiting for more information.
Yeah, I wouldn't impugn any motive to anybody with what we know and what's available in the public, and just reading over it, it's like really strange, non-professional. The person who went after and did the disconnect, the fact that they're still missing, it's not a good sign. How do you not know how to carry a gun, don't know how to disable a camera, but also we're smart enough to not have a cell phone that could be trackable and you can't be found by the FBI's, very capable tools, which found people at January 6th, in days. And so that's what we keep wondering. There are tools that are used on a regular basis to run these things down. I've seen the people using them. I probably know the guy who's actually out running down and trying to find out what's going on there from the cast team. There's a decent chance I know the cast operator that's trying to run this data set. And why we don't know more than that, there's no reason to speculate. There's so many variables that are out there. When you see people going out and say, well, it's one of these things or this is that, and, as a former FBI agent, it's like, really? Well, what's your experience with freaking kidnappings, dude? Because I ran down a missing kid. We did a virtual and we had one that was like a legit kidnapping, and they ended up over on the other side of the border. That's it. It's just not that common of a thing for us to deal with. And your expertise in it is going to be like, how experienced are you? Like, it'd be like your experience of doing trim molding in your house. Like, maybe you did it once and then you haven't done it again, and you forgot how to do it.
That's a big maybe. That I can tell you is a no. I have not done it.
But you could do it, and then you'd have to refer something. You wouldn't be an expert on it if you'd done it once. And I'm not an expert either. None are these people, these former FBI officials that I keep seeing pop up, and they're giving their speculation. Well, this doesn't look like this. Dude, you don't know. I don't know. Like, stop trading in credibility you don't have.